And good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Today, the hearing for a gun rights bill was heard at the Capitol.
The Second Amendment Preservation Act would keep Nebraska from enforcing any federal directives on guns that don't exist under the state's laws. Channel 8's Matthew Mittleiter explains more in our top story tonight.
Introduced by Senator Halloran, he says LB 194 is meant to protect the rights of gun owners from government overreach. If this bill was passed, law enforcement would not have to enforce federal laws on firearms if they conflict with Nebraska law. Other states have passed similar legislation, and supporters say this bill would help to keep the federal government from controlling the guns of citizens in Nebraska.
The people of Nebraska depend on us to uphold and protect their constitutional rights, which is why LB 194 is necessary. At this time, 14 other states have passed legislation making them a Second Amendment sanctuary state, and it is time for Nebraska to be included.
He says the right to be free from the hand of the federal government was recognized by the Supreme Court in 1997's Prince versus the United States, where the court held that state and local law enforcement would not be required to carry out a federal law which called for background checks on people seeking to buy a gun.
We all know the Second Amendment states that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but that hasn't stopped our federal government from attempting to do exactly that.
Supporters say 91 of Nebraska's 93 counties have declared themselves sanctuary cities, ensuring no county-level personnel would be used in illegal enforcement, confiscation, or arrest actions when it comes to firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Opponents say no one's guns are actually being taken away right now, and the law would make it harder for police to be held accountable when they only have to enforce certain laws and not others. Both the Omaha and Lincoln police departments had representatives speak as well, saying this law would create a number of complications and confusion for law enforcement and how they work with the federal government.
We believe LB 194 in its current construct would have unintended consequences, the result of which would negatively impact community safety, more specifically gun violence.
The way in which the bill is written leaves more questions than answers for local law enforcement and our federal partners. The LB 194 handcuffs the cooperation between local and federal law enforcement more than it handcuffs the criminals who are out there committing violent crimes.
Several sheriff's offices from across the state have also released statements in support of the Second Amendment and say they will stand up to federal overreach and attempts to regulate gun ownership. Reporting in Lincoln, this is Matthew Mittleiter, Channel 8 News.